Okay, good morning everybody, and thank you for joining us for this morning's webcast, What's New with CA IDMS and IUA? Plenty. Before I hand things over to Dave Ross for formal introductions, just a reminder that if you have questions along the way, please use the Q&A feature within WebEx. If you don't see the Q&A box in the lower right of your screen, please just click on the question mark icon at the top right of the page, and the box will open up for you. And with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, Dave, the floor is yours.
Len, I don't see the PowerPoint on my WebEx.
Are you on a different tab, maybe?
No. Let me see. It was there before and it disappeared.
Oh, it never came back for you? Okay, hold on a second. All right. Let me take this back. Yeah. Hold on just 1 second, though. Because I made you the presenter, it's only going to be there when I'm presenting, so I need to upload it. Actually, you know what? I'll just advance the slides, I think. Now, if I do you still see it or no?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, good. All right. We should be good now.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Len. As Len mentioned, I'm Dave Ross. I'm the Senior Principal Product Manager for the IDMS product line. Actually, I'm the product owner. Sheila Miller, who is our product manager, won't be able to join us today. But today we also have Laura Rochon, the President of the IDMS User Association, and Michael Palalonis, who's our Principal Information Services Engineer, who will be presenting today. So let me just see if I can. How do I advance the slide?
Just above the slide itself, you should see a little arrow, a little triangle.
Okay.
There you go.
Great. Okay. So this is it. Let me just. Okay. So our agenda today is Laura will be speaking about the IDMS IUA Technical Conference and why you should attend this. This will take place in May. Michael will talk about the IDMS Wiki, which is a new way that we'll be delivering our product documentation. And then I will be giving everyone an update on IDMS 19.0 and what the features we're working on right now, and an overview of our release plans. And then finally, we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. So with that, I will now turn it over to Laura.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Good morning, everyone. Back in December 2014, we had an IDMS technical conference, December, and we had it in Boston. Everybody really liked the technical content and everything, but they didn't necessarily like being in Boston in December. So we decided to have another one. So it's back by popular demand, but instead of being in December, it's going to be in May. So as far as weather-wise, it should be a lot nicer. But again, we're having it in the Framingham CA office, which is suburbs of Boston. And that's going to be the week of May 16th to the 20th. The registration is not yet open, but that's coming really, really soon. We were hoping to have it open by today. We're still having a little technical problem with that. But as soon as the registration is open, we'll let you know through the communities. Now, okay, who should attend? Well, DBAs. Start off, all the technical conferences with IDMS, usually DBAs should always attend. And we also have a track for developers, so application developers should also attend to find out what's going on in the IDMS world from the application point of view. As I just said, there are 2 tracks, so there's 2 tracks of sessions going on at the same time. If you're a DBA, you can go to the development track, no problem. If you're a developer and you want to see what we're seeing over on the DBA side, no problem. You can go either tracks you can available to everybody, basically. Now, why should you attend? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons to attend. There's, first of all, a lot of technical information within the conference itself. And before the conference, we actually have a day and a half of pre-conference education. And then we have the 3-day conference. It gives you a lot of networking opportunities with the CA staff, the CA development staff, CA support staff for IDMS, the product management teams for IDMS, like, for example, Dave and Sheila. And you also have networking opportunities with other IDMS customers. So that's really neat to find out, talk to people, what they're doing with IDMS and so forth. we learn a lot of information when we have these webcasts with IDMS, but it's never the same thing as talking to somebody in the hallway between break, on a break between sessions and finding out what the other customer is doing with IDMS. So that's the networking opportunities for these face-to-face conferences is unbelievable. Okay, open exchange. Now, we want to look at what the week is going to be like. The pre-conference education, as I said, is a day and a half, and we're going to start that at lunchtime, right after lunch on Monday. So people who are on the East Coast and within driving distance will be able to drive to the conference on Monday morning. Registration will start around 11, 12 o'clock. There'll be a light lunch served, even though it's not specified on the foil there, because we're starting the education portion at 1 o'clock on the Monday, May 16th. There's also opportunities during the week to have one-on-one meetings. If you would like to have a meeting with somebody who's in that particular, in the CA office in Boston, or a CA person who's going to be there because of the conference, you can request a one-to-one meeting with that person. There'll be a facility set up to be able to request the one-on-one meeting, and it will be set up during the week for you. On Monday night, there'll be a light fair, a welcome reception at the CA office itself. And then on Tuesday, it's a full day of education. So it's not 1-hour tracks of different sessions. It's a full day of education. And the education, the 1.5 day of technical pre-conference education, again, it's 2 tracks. So there'll be the pre-conference education for development or application people, and a day and a half of pre-conference education for the DBA-oriented people. Then on Wednesday, May 18th, is the actual conference that's starting. In the morning, we have a welcome address, some keynote addresses. We'll have the roadmap, the IDMS roadmap of what's going on with IDMS, a deep dive into the details of Release 19, what's going on. And then we'll be talking about ideation. For people who are not familiar with the ideation methodology, we'll be talking about it because on Friday morning, you'll see that we'll have an ideation session. So there's on Wednesday, there'll be talk about it to explain what ideation is, and then on Friday we'll talk about it in more detail. And then after that, after all these the roadmap and the deep dive and so forth, the sessions start, and at that point there's a breakout session. So there'll be sessions for application people and session for the DBA people. And on Wednesday evening, it's a free evening. The technical conference that we had in December 2014, we were busy every night, and although people enjoyed it, they kind of asked for a free night. So in this conference, we decided, okay, we'll give you a free night. On Wednesday night, May 18th, you'll have a free night. Then on Thursday, there's a couple keynote addresses also during the day. We have a Birds of a Feather session, and then on Thursday night, and then we have, of course, the track sessions, the DBA track and the development track. So there's sessions going on all day. And then on Thursday night, there's the IUA sponsored event night, which this year we decided to go to for a cruise on in the Boston Harbor. And it's aboard the boat Spirit of Boston. So what we'll do is we'll hire buses to take us from Framingham down to the harbor. We'll board the cruise. We'll go along the cruise. There'll be supper and drinks and so forth, and then we'll bus you back to Framingham afterwards. And then on Friday morning, there's session tracks again, Friday morning up to noon, and we'll also have first thing in the morning live ideation. We'll talk about that. The ideation basically is to talk about the future of IDMS. What kind of features would people like within the next releases of IDMS? So that's what the ideation process is all about. So they're very full days. Basically, we're going from 9 to 5 every day, except for on Thursday because we need to catch the bus to go down to the Boston Harbor. But they're very full days. There's a lot of information that is provided in those 5 days, in the pre-con education and the technical session, Wednesday through Friday. And then, of course, the main question a lot of people will ask, well, how much is it going to cost? I'm having problems getting to the next slide. Okay, there it is. A fee, it's a really nominal fee, $99 US. and that will be available to pay. It's payable basically through the registration process, and as soon as we have that ready, we'll send that out on the communities. In 2014, we had said it was free. We didn't charge anything. And then people, I mean, most of the time when you say something's free, people say, oh, good, good, good. But actually we got the comments, no, you should be charging for this because there's a lot of good information. So the $99 is just really to help defer the cost of the conference, but really it's just to say it's a nominal fee. You're getting a lot more than $99 worth. Okay, it's really a good technical conference. The hotel that we're suggesting is the Residence Inn in Framingham. It's right beside the CA office, so it's really within walking distance. And in Residence Inns, when you stay there, the breakfasts are provided. So we strongly suggest that people stay there because it's just within walking distance. And then, of course, you can network with fellow IDMS users at breakfast and afterwards for drinks and so forth at the hotel. We strongly suggest that you reserve the hotel when you go through the registration process for the actual conference. There's so many rooms that are booked for the conference, and after a certain date we have to free up those rooms. So it's a good idea to book when you reserve for the registration. Okay, time is running out. What we mean by time is running out is we're in the middle of working on the actual schedule of all the sessions. It's pretty much locked down. It's not locked down yet, but we're getting to the point where we're going to lock it down. So if there's any particular subject that you would like to see within the session, or if there's a subject that you would like to teach, you know, if you really would like to teach something, no problem. Please let us know. Send your input to Sheila at the email that's there, SheilaMiller2@ca.com. But please, if you really want something, please do it soon because we're locking down the schedule really, really soon. Okay. The other point I'd like to make out is please pass along this information to other DBAs within your shop, and more specifically to the application people. Very often in these webcasts we get all the DBAs and we don't get very many application people. So please pass along this information to your application developers within your shop because there's going to be 3.5 days of technical sessions for the developers and 1.5 days of pre-conference education for the developers. So it's very beneficial for them too. And I think that's it as far for me. Yep. So that's my part. I hope to see you all in May. So again, it's May 16th to the 20th in Framingham at the CA office. Thank you. Dave, back to you.
Thanks, Laura. Yep, thank you, Laura. We're all looking forward to this conference here in the office also. Michael, turn it over to you to show the new wiki and how useful that will be to all our users.
Great, thanks, Dave. Let's see, I'm Michael Pelonis. I develop documentation here at CA. Thanks to everybody for coming. My biggest challenge now is going to be to keep everybody awake on a cold Wednesday morning. So let's dig in. What I'm going to do is spend about 5 to 7 minutes showing you some slides very quickly to explain the why, the what we're doing, that it's based on direct customer feedback. After that, I'm going to spend about 10 minutes showing you a live demo, no smoke and mirrors allowed here, of our new IDMS online doc system that's in development and going to be released with an increment soon. So let's, after that, I'll also take questions. So at any time, if you want to go ahead and type into the Q&A, I'll answer all those afterwards. This should take a total of about 20 minutes. All right, so when we asked users through surveys, over 200 surveys, starting about 2 years ago, you know, what was wrong with the doc? What would you like to see about the doc? Generally, the consensus we got is it's just too much information. I can't find what I'm looking for. It's scattered all over the place. In the case of IDMS, in fact, it is the largest doc set in the company with over 8 million words and over 112 guides, I believe, separate PDF guides. So for IDMS in particular, you know, much information, too much information, hard to find is a situation. So when we looked at that, you know, what we saw is that this format is pretty antiquated, especially the search facilities of it. We've got PDF flat files on the bookshelf that you're familiar with. These components weren't arranged by tasks, or, you know, the doc wasn't arranged by tasks, but more about components. and the volume is just plain intimidating, as I explained. It spans all over the place. The keywords, based on our bookshelf, is the search facilities is just keyword-based. I'll show you a small splash of that, which as a user you might be familiar. You know, you type in something as simple as SQL statements, you basically say, you know, your results are, okay, that term occurs in 63 pages across 44 guides, good luck. That's pretty much what you get. Wouldn't it be great if, you know, everybody's so used to Google searching on the web that they would be able to see these things ranked with algorithms, using Boolean searches, actually, you know, having summaries of your results, similar to everything you find on the web in the modern day. So that's one of the things we shot to provide. So our conclusion was we really needed to get out of the old-fashioned written books that are meant to be printed and into something that's more agile in the modern software world, accessible everywhere. So we're getting rid of the guides. We're getting rid of PDF guides. We've re-architected all the information according to what you do, your user role, whether you're an installer, you're an administrator, you're someone who's using the program for all of its features. We've got a pre-made PDF, which I will show you in a second, so we still do have that format, even if it's now sort of a backup format. Some of the other things I'll show you is that you know, everything's ranked according to Boolean searching. So this is what we're saying hello to. This is a splash of what I'll show you in just a minute. We could search, you know, across the whole information set, not in a guide. You don't have to know where anything's located anymore, really. We got some pretty cool message lookup features I'll show you in a second. The primary entry to all of this stuff is going to be search. Just search and find it. We still have plenty of navigation features to get around, though, whether you like to browse through tables of contents and quick links and things like that. And I'll show you a little more of that. Breadcrumbs, another way to find out where you are in things, whether you could step back, down, deeper granularity. Things are arranged, you know, where it used to spread across 6 books, we now just have those all in the using section. So various platforms and options are all covered in the same place. We got some cool features as far as screenshots too. Our ISPF panels, they're actually just text, so we could use those like GUI hyperlinks. You could select those screenshots and it'll bring you to the topic all about it, something that's pretty new and unique. We'll also have the ability to do new media. We could stream webcasts. We could stream instructional videos that supplement our procedures that we step through, and all the fun stuff that comes with basically a website, which is your doc. We're able to track what you're finding, what you're not finding. We could tell who's searching for, you know, not who, but what keywords are being searched for, whether they're leading to hits, whether they're leading to people getting lost. We could change the titles of things so that they appear for you better. So we're able to monitor the popularity of the pages, the ones we want to focus on because of it. We're able to monitor what people are finding, what they're not finding, and make adjustments right on the fly. Customers have been telling us that the main thing they like about this is their ability to search. You can even search this from Google because it's all open documentation. You don't even have to find it on CA support. Just search in Google. It'll come up for you just as if you were already in there. I'll show you some of that in a minute. They like that this is easy to use, essentially. This could be accessed from a mobile device, from a tablet, basically any browser anywhere. When we did usability testing for this system, these are just a couple of the last slides I'll show you that give you the impression that, you know, everybody said it's very easy to use. When we asked them the typical survey response questions, nobody really said I had any difficulty. Even when we asked them trick questions, you know, how easy did you find it? Same thing, pretty much everybody, 80% on average, said it's extremely easy to use, and the other said, well, it's not necessarily difficult. So with that, I'm going to show you a demo of the IDMS. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, so this is docops.ca.com, and I invite any of you to go there and check out all the products across CA. This is a CA-wide effort, and you could select them all. I'm not logged in right now. I'm just a regular anonymous customer. I type in IDMS. That's the first thing that comes up. And it takes me to the new IDMS online doc set. Now, some of the things to note about this, as I said, you know, everything here is arranged according to your usage, according to what you're doing, instead of according to component. And within there, you know, we still cover a lot of the components. So you can see everything here is, everything about installing is nicely wrapped around installing, regardless of your platform or your option. What you see in blue boxes here, aside from nice features about announcements that we could give you about the user group that's coming up or something that's going on in communities, these are basically quick links. So it's steered navigation. If you want to get to anything that you see on the left in that table of contents, you could get to it just as easily here if we want to highlight it. And so that's just easy navigation is what these blue boxes are for. But as I said, the primary access method for this now is search. I'm going to just type in something like, let's say I want to find out about the parameter file. And this I could have searched from Google just the same. So, you know, instead of, okay, that's in 54 books, 16 times each, this pretty much tells me, oh, yeah, this even highlights what I might be looking for, among all the other things that are pretty self-explanatory. So when I go into this, this is what I was actually looking for in this little case. And notice that on the left, it's going to highlight where I am in the structure of this whole thing. This allows you to see where you are in the info map, whether you want to step up, down, across, to a higher or deeper level of granularity. As well as that, you have breadcrumbs here. So you can see where the whole scheme is stepping up, down, around, and decide for yourself where you want to go next. So again, you could search that from Google and get the same exact thing. So when you're in some of those, let's just go to using, for example. And when I'm in some of those, you know, I could comment, I could rate, I could say things to CA. So I'm going to show you that, as well as telling us what you think, whether this doc solved your problem, a more qualitative testament. You could also add a comment and say something like, wouldn't it be great if this product did this feature? Or you could even say, you know, something opinionated. We have an SLA that the writing team is going to be notified immediately when you write a comment. They could go and contact support, contact product ownership. They have to respond to you within 24 hours to let you know they're going to do something. Everybody could see anybody else's comments. Of course, we do site gardening. If somebody, you know, says something nasty, we could pluck that out. But you're able to see what your fellow users are saying about the content, about the product. And it's something that's very new and nifty with this program. What I'm going to show you now is the message lookup feature. Customers told us that they often don't use our documentation to look up messages. They'll use QuickRef by ChicagoSoft. So we basically made an online lookup feature that works a lot like QuickRef. If I were to get a message when I was using IDMS, DCO 99002, for example, there it is. I look it up, I found it, I could print it, I close out, I never even left my doc set. And aside from just message codes, I could even type in just straight text. Let's see if I want to find abend codes. Oh yeah, there's the user abend codes that I was looking for. There they are, I found what I need, I could print it out, I close out, I'm on my merry way. So that's a feature that mainframe customers have been telling us they really like. Now, this is all anonymously available. All this, that'll let you access it through Google, but we do have the ability to make login-only sections, which we'll be doing to this IDMS doc, of course, that I'm showing you. So I'm going to show you that right now. I'm not logged in. There are sections in this, as this notice says, that I can only access once I am logged in. Once I do that, all I'm using is my CSO login, my Support Online login, like many customers have. And then magically, the super secret sections that require login will appear. I've even named them that, secret info. So this is a way that you could see, you know, all your sensitive information is handled in that way. I want to show you really quickly before I show you the PDF something special we did for IDMS users. We realized that a lot of IDMS users have been using this large span of guides for a long time. You might be thinking, you know, you rearranged all my information. Now I'm going to have even more hard time finding it. So we made a mapping file just for you. Every guide, all 100-something of them, are listed here and we're still working on this, as you can see, but everything on the left is the guide, and we have the exact section where the majority of that information ended up in this new scheme. So if you want to access things according to the guides you're familiar with, we made this page just for you to do that. And you can see that list is very long, and we're still working on that. So by release, we will have that, and you can click around to find things in that format as well. So now what I'm going to show you is PDF. I know a lot of people are interested in PDF. We still have that available. I'm going to do this live. And on any page you have PDF. I'm going to click it right now. It's downloading. See how fast this is. What this is going to give me is a PDF of the entire info set in one PDF. Now, some people have been saying, that's a little crazy. You've got a 7,000-page PDF of everything. Some people have been saying, actually, this is great because now I don't have to know which of the 100 PDFs to go to. I can find it all in one spot. What you'll see here is you've got the same sort of features in the PDF world that you might be used to. We've got, everything's hyperlinked, the PDF that you're familiar with, but notice, we are talking a 7,000-page PDF here. We do have the table of contents and everything that you might be familiar with still going on there. The thing to note about PDF is, we offer this to you for your disaster and recovery compliance as an offline backup. It's not necessarily meant to be the primary usage format anymore now that we have all this online with better searching. The thing to know is if you decide or have to, because of offline connectivity issues, if you have to use the PDF, you're not going to have the latest and greatest updates that we might do on the fly. You won't see the comments that people have made. And most importantly, you're limited to the search features of Adobe Acrobat Reader instead of the web-based searches that you saw. So with that, that's the thing to know about PDF. But as well, as I showed you in some of these other things, you could always tell us what you think about the PDF or about anything in either of these mechanisms. So really quickly, before I take any questions, I'm going to show you some other features that you'll see. We have additional resources in every one of these spaces where you could see things like support matrices. This lets you find everything you want to know about IDMS that's located in various pages of support without having to navigate through support. It can be difficult to find things. So we've got links to everything from educational things, blogs, social media, knowledge-based articles, release and lifecycle dates. So this becomes sort of your one-stop shop for anything you need instead of having to navigate around and find it. We did the pointers for you. Some of the new media that you'll be able to see, this is a different space, but it gives you the example of an inline video. It's right on the page. Here's all the steps that we tell you to do for this particular product, and you can just start watching a tutorial for it that's streamed right into the page. I'm not going to make you sit through that. And lastly, before I take questions, I'll show you that we're going to be constantly working on this and improving it. This is what it'll look like later on in a later iteration. It's a new skin. This allows more 508 compliance. Screen readers could read this. It's the same thing I just showed you with a slightly different look and color, look and feel, things like that. So this is something that, the doc will change to. Some of the nice features of it, you could see when the last update was made versus the PDF. We've got EPUB, which is a format for readers if you like to read this stuff on a plane on your tablet. All your versions and increments will be accessible right from any page, so you could switch to a future or past version of your doc. And if we translate it, you could even access on the fly different languages of the whole thing. So that is the gist of what I wanted to show you. I'm going to stop sharing this and see if there's any questions that came through. Okay, all the questions I see on the panel are still regarding audio, so if anybody has any questions they want to go ahead and type in, feel free. As well, you could, I invite you all to check out docops.ca.com to see some of the other products that are out there, and feel free to send any emails if you want to ask me personally, michael.palonis.ca.com. I should be my full name for the spelling should be showing up in the participants list there for you. So since there's no more questions, I'm going to turn this. Thanks, Gary, for your positive comments saying you love the mapping guide and the EPUB features, and the retention of PDF. Yes. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dave.
Okay, thanks, Michael. That was very helpful, and I think this will be a big improvement in the long run over the way we've been doing things in the past. Let me just switch to the next slide here. Okay, so I will now give an update on where we are with 19 and just a status of a couple of the major features we're doing in this. The vision of 19 has been really about extending and modernizing applications. So Laura's comment about encouraging your application people to attend the conference in May is very appropriate. So, the first group of features that we've been working on in 19 has been some enhancements to SQL. The biggest one was a feature we're calling SQL Virtual Foreign Keys. And what this is, as those of you who have tried to use SQL working with network databases are aware that because the network model is a superset of what you can do with relational databases, there are some things that you need to do a few extra techniques in order to access network databases through SQL. In particular, set relationships, because IDMS databases typically do not have redundant data in them. So member records typically do not have the calc key of owner records, for example. So we've had a variety of techniques we've used to work around this, but in this release what we've been developing is a feature called virtual foreign keys, which expose the network set relationships directly through SQL. You can do queries using standard SQL with no IDMS extensions, and what we're working on now is providing native DML capabilities using standard SQL so that you can insert, update, and delete network records using SQL, pretty much using having all the same capabilities that you would have if you were writing a COBOL program that issued native DML commands. Another thing that this feature enables is that because we expose these foreign keys through standard ODBC and JDBC metadata, is that open tools and frameworks can now discover and see the relationships between network records that are defined by sets. Okay, so the virtual foreign keys, they're based on a row ID. A row ID is essentially it's the DB key of a record with page info attached to it. Every record that can have a virtual primary key, which is its row ID, and every member record will have a column called fkey _ set name. We automatically define these, and those will be the row ID of the owner record of the set. The good thing about this is that there are no network schema changes required to implement this. There are no application changes required to implement this. You simply add a with virtual keys clause on the SQL schema definition, and from that point on, every network record that you access through that schema will have virtual foreign keys for all the sets that records participate in, and every record will have a virtual primary key of row ID. These virtual keys are then available, as I mentioned, through the common ODBC and JDBC metadata. So you can see just a quick, just an example of what this might look like. There's a utility called Schema Spy that can be used to analyze relational databases. If I showed you this on a standard IDMS database, that it would just be a blank screen. But in this case, by defining a schema that I called empwith, where it specified virtual foreign keys, all of a sudden a tool that knows nothing whatsoever about IDMS or network databases can essentially more or less print the equivalent of a Bachman diagram, where it shows this is our standard demo database, and it shows that the employee record owns a covered record, which has a multi-member set of 3 different other types of records, and these are all exposed through virtual foreign keys. In this diagram, the arrows go the other way because the coverage table emp coverage virtual foreign key references the row ID column in the employee table. Okay. The other thing that we've been working on is kind of from the other side. That was to the virtual foreign key feature is so that SQL can be used with network databases. But in addition, we've been standardizing our SQL DDL in particular so that you can define referential constraints and uniqueness constraints on the create table statement. This will provide us with ISO compliant DDL, and it will provide enhanced compatibility with common tools and development frameworks. Things like Hibernate, if you're using things like Hibernate or the Java persistence architecture, there's one mode of that where you can define your objects in Java and then generate a relational database definition from that. Well, currently our DDL was not compatible with that because our constraint definition was a separate statement. This would solve that problem. And furthermore, if you're using tools that have predefined SQL databases that you need to define to IDMS, this will go a long way towards providing compatibility with those. The other major initiative that we've been working on in IDMS 19 is IDMS Web Services. We've already delivered the ability for IDMS programs to consume web services and IDMS programs to provide web services so that you can invoke web services from any other platform that are served up by IDMS. What we're currently working on in our current incremental release is what we call a Web Services API. And what this is this is making it easier to build application programs that consume web services and application programs that essentially are web services. So we've built a well-defined, extendable interface that will isolate user code from our product changes. The code that we've delivered now was a little bit, we had sample programs, but they were a little bit more sensitive to changes that we might make as we enhance the product. So by defining a standard API that will completely isolate applications from the enhancements we develop, and we'll deliver this incrementally in our process as we have for already in release 19. This also means there'll be no need for a user-written interface program. There will be just user application and service programs. Okay. This will be, we're implementing this as a callable service. For any of you who are familiar with the way we provided support for TCP IP sockets, we had a callable service called IDMS SOCI that you could issue a COBOL call using statement or a ads link to. There's actually a BIF for ads for the socket interface. We're providing the same technique for web services. It will be a callable service. It will be available for all languages that IDMS supports, which include COBOL, ads, PL1, and assembler. And for that matter, essentially all of IDMS is available through callable services. Network DML and SQL calls are really done as callable services. The only difference there is that we have a precompiler that can generate the call statements. Okay, the API itself will consist of a number of functions. Obviously, the most obvious functions are things like data transfer, actually sending the request and receiving the request. But we'll also have some API functions for managing and setting options like timeouts and logging information and session management or request management that can be used to really control the allocation and deallocation of resources. And finally, it is our intent to build data mapping and transformation functions that can assist in the parsing and generation of the XML request. Okay, this is just an example of how this is our demo program, but this is an example of the way that you would invoke web services going forward. And you can see this is an ads process code, and it's just simply a statement to link to program IDMS WSI using the function you want to execute, and then some buffers to contain the return code, error information, and then parameters that would vary by function call. So we think this would be a much more straightforward way to build web services applications. And here's a quick use case of how you might use that. If you're writing an IDMS program that consumes a web service, you would issue a link to WS API, IDMS WSI, using the function of initialize to just get things started. Optionally, you could set options. You don't need to. Then you would issue a WS request function, which would send the request to the application server, wherever it is. It could be another IDMS system, or it could be any application server pretty much anywhere. And that would then, it's a synchronous call that would then return the response. And then finally, you would just free any resources. It really just gives us a hint that, okay, we can free up any storage or other resources we may have allocated on behalf of this web service request. On the provider side, if you're building an application that will respond to web service requests from outside, again, there's the initialize call that just gets information about the request that actually sets up the environment. Optionally, you can set options or get options to see their value. And then the provider application would then issue a receive request in order to get the XML request in its internal buffer so that it can process it. It would then do whatever processing needs to be done, issue some native DML, issue some SQL, whatever, and then it would then format the XML and send, use the WSSend function to send the response back to the caller, and then finally it could release any resources. So that's pretty much just a quick overview of where we are in our current incremental release. I'd like to go over our overall delivery release plans for the rest of IDMS 19 at this point. Okay, so this is what we've delivered to date. Our base install was delivered just a year ago in February. That was GA, and that consisted of a base PAX file that was pretty much equivalent to IDMS 18.5, except that the copyright dates and version numbers and various things like that had been updated to reflect that this was now release 19. In August of 2015, we delivered incremental release 1. It became GA. We actually had delivered it to our validation users a little bit sooner than that to get feedback. And that included the web services consumer feature, which was the ability for an IDMS online application to make a request to an external web service. We also implemented a couple of DCMT commands to vary zip on and offline and to vary the log at the request of our users. Incremental release 2 was just GA. This also had been available for a while for our validation users. This is GA, I believe, last week. And the major features in incremental release 2 are the web services provider feature. Again, that's the ability to, for an IDMS application to be invoked as a web service from outside of IDMS. And we also delivered the first part of a virtual foreign keys feature, which is the ability to do queries that retrieve virtual foreign keys, that use virtual foreign keys and row IDs in their selection predicates. And this basically allows you to use standard SQL to navigate a network database just as if you were doing native DML. Okay, there are plans for the rest of the release that we've got targeted. Our incremental release 3, our target to make this available to our validation customers, those are users that sign up on validate.ca.com and basically get an early release of the product. This is very valuable to us, that users would take the code, download it, and try it out, and give us feedback on whether it works or not, whether it's useful, how we could improve it. We're planning on delivering the web services API that I just explained, as well as support for updating network databases using virtual foreign keys, in particular the ability to insert, update, and delete row records completely using SQL. This actually is quite an extension because there are certain native DML operations that were actually not even possible through SQL, and this feature will solve that so that you can do pretty much anything you want through SQL, avoiding the need for application programmers to learn a lot of native DML commands and operations. And then incremental release 4, which is targeted for June for validation. That's our last incremental release that we plan. It's a very short cycle. We plan to make the standard constraint definition DDL available, as well as any other things that we need to clean up the release. And finally, in July, IDMS 19, our target is to make IDMS 19.0 complete. And by complete, we mean that any new features will be delivered as incremental releases on a future release, whether it would be 19.1, 19.5, or whatever the number is, it would be a new release. At that time, we would then create an updated PACS file that contains all the incremental feature PTFs as well as all the maintenance PTFs that were available on the date that we actually create that PACS file. From then on, users who want to install IDMS will just get the updated PACS file. They won't need to participate in the incremental release program because it will be then, we won't be adding any features to 19. And furthermore, at that point, once IDMS 19.0 is complete, PTFs, maintenance PTFs, will then appear in the CA recommended service updates that had, in that case, those PTFs will then have been tested with other CA products as part of the CA stack. That's not to say that we're not doing thorough testing internally as we deliver the incremental releases. In fact, we are basically running what we used to do as our QA cycle at the end of a multi-year development process. We're running most of those tests on an almost nightly basis. That's why we're confident that we can deliver incremental releases to a GA product. One other thing I just wanted to point out is that we've changed our methodology a little bit, and we're now, for users that have joined our validation program, we're actually inviting them to our actual team and to sprint reviews. Those are every third Tuesday, not every third Tuesday of the month. That's just every 3 weeks is our sprint schedule. So when we reach the end of a sprint, the teams review the process and of the stories that they've completed, and if they are looking for feedback on how something works, they can present a demo. And if you join the release process, validation process, we will invite you to these meetings, and you can see exactly how fast or how slow we're making progress towards delivering the features that I just described. And also you can provide feedback in real time to the teams, whether what they've done looks useful. Believe me, the teams really appreciate being some feedback that, yeah, they're on the right track, and or feedback that perhaps there could be improvements made. And finally, another feature that we expect to roll out very shortly is what we call the end-of-sprint demo environment. And what this will mean is, rather than asking users to download and install new features, which we understand that can be rather time-consuming, and users have their own critical time constraints, CA will be making a end-of-sprint demo environment. Those will be VM mini-system LPARs that are on a private network that you will be able to access and try out our incremental release code, and for that matter, our end-of-sprint code. You'll be able to sign on to those systems and actually try out the code immediately and give us feedback, see how it would work. You could define your own databases, whatever you like. So if you're interested in that, just contact me or Sheila, and we'll be able to connect you with the information to use that. So with that, I think we can turn this over to any general questions and answers. We have a few minutes left. You can also contact all of us on the call using these email addresses: Sheila Miller2@ca.com, David Ross at ca.com, Michael Pallalonis at ca.com, or Laura Schoen via the CA communities. So with that, I'll throw it open to questions. I see a couple of questions have come in.
Yeah, Dave, I think the only product-related question is online reorg coming anytime soon?
Okay, online reorg. We do recommend that. We do recognize that solving the reorg window problem is very important to our users. Our next release after July will be doing a little bit of a balance of focusing between application enablement and continuity, business continuity, and we will be addressing some improvements to reorg, whether that would indicate, whether we would do that by doing an online reorg or techniques to shorten the window. We're still working through how we'll do that, but we recognize that that is something that that we'll be addressing in the next release. So I hope that answers that. I see that came from Ian Cameron. So we do recognize that. A lot of users have asked for that, and we will be working at that on that. We will also be looking at how the Datacom team has solved some of those problems to see if any of their technology or techniques might be applicable to what we're doing. Okay, I see another question from Joseph. Are we thinking about implementing an MQ interface to IDMS? Well, we are still thinking about it. It is not, I will be honest that it is not in our immediate short-term plans to implement that. There's, as you can imagine, we have a lot of things we're trying to do. So in terms of what we'll get to in the sort of the next incremental release or two of IDMS is that we don't think we'll be delivering that. But we are still aware that that's a need, and we are still looking into ways we might do that. Okay, Cindy Klein. We had a customer with lots of problems replicating with Informatica, but we must use Informatica. Is there more information from the CA side about interfacing with tools such as Informatica? Okay, Cindy, maybe you and I can touch base afterwards because I'm not quite sure of the details of your question. We do have a relationship with Informatica, so we could, if we can talk a little bit, maybe we can find out how we can answer those questions. Bob Medine, when 19.0 is complete, will an end of support be published for 18.5? We will follow our usual process for announcing an end of support date. And let's see, so at some point it would be quite lengthy. You know, like we would give plenty of notice for 18.5 to the end of support. I think we're still supporting 18.0, 18.5, and 19. I believe we've announced an end of support date for 18.0, but I would have to check on that. So yes, at some point we will announce end of support, but it would not be. It would be rather far out. General question, I read about visual IDMS read-only access from the CA community. Do you know which release this is planned? It's on our backlog. Again, I can't tell you exactly when this is planned. It's been something we recognize we need to do, but we have not gotten to it now. We will be reviewing when we can fit this in. Okay, Steve Rundle has asked, it seems the release number goes backwards at the end of the incremental release cycle. R19, SP1, SP2, SP3, then release 19 complete. Well, they're incremental releases, one. That's just the way that the incremental release process was defined for the mainframe as a whole. Basically, we've got a base. I guess you can think of the incremental releases as a little bit like service packs, but there's a little bit of a difference in that they do not include all of the maintenance PTFs, and that was a deliberate choice on our part. The only rules of including maintenance PTFs is if they would a module was changed for an incremental feature, then the maintenance PTF that changed that module would then become a prerequisite, but those are standard MSPS. That's the mainframe software packaging service that we use to build PBS. Those are standard rules for that. Release 19 complete, that just means that we're not doing any more incremental releases on it, and it's just a signal that if for users who would prefer to see that a new release is stable and not being changed, that's a signal that the release has reached that point. So, as opposed to the release being GA. So we've answered that when we announced the base install, we say that is GA. So we couldn't say release 19 is GA at the end because it's been GA all along. The incremental releases have been generally available to users. So the wording that was chosen was called complete. But I hope that answers the question, Steve. But okay, I don't. Any more questions coming in? We have a couple more minutes.
I don't see anything else, Dave.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay. So, I thank everybody for joining in this call. I hope we have a good turnout for here in Framingham in May. It's the weather is snowing here today, but by May it's usually quite nice in New England. And I think this wiki should be, as time goes on, we should realize that this is actually a big improvement in getting documentation updates out to users more quickly and actually getting feedback more quickly. When you see something wrong with documentation, you no longer will need to open a support issue and have a documentation update. You can just put a comment right there and about something you noticed that's not right, and as Michael indicated, the service levels are to respond very quickly. So this should be much more rapidly updated documentation. And finally, I hope you can see where we are with IDMS 19 and where we're going for 20. Well, that will be coming, but as I mentioned, we will be balancing the application development with more of the DBA type of work for release 20. And with that, I guess I'm done. I'll turn it back over to Len.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody, to our speakers and to our attendees. One last question did come in, but it was for me. When will the presentation be available offline? I'll be publishing the replay of this session as well as the PowerPoint slides later today or tomorrow morning. So look for them in the community today or tomorrow. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good day.